everybody, and welcome to Elephants in Our Room. And I'm Janet Lessin, and I'm here with Debra DeFranco. And we're just going to get right to it because we have so many topics to discuss today. So, Debra.
Yes,
aloha.
ma'am. Aloha.
Let's get right to it. You sent me so many things. Do you have the screen pulled up? I saved it a couple of places. I have a new website.
Every time I send you something, I have a folder where I put it all, so it's all listed there in order.
Okay, so let's just go down your folder. What's the first item you want to cover? Because we've got a lot to cover today.
The lawsuit filed by Trump and the 18 states, along with Texas, to the Supreme Court to try and overturn the election. How about that one?
Let's start with that one. I thought it was 17 states, so now you're saying it's 18,
and
the YouTube says 17 states.
One more joined today.
Who joined? Who came on board?
Oh, I didn't look. It's such nonsense. Like, I can't even believe it. No, it doesn't even matter. They're not going to win this. You know.
Well, I got a thing that 22 states filed a countersuit.
Well, it's not their filing countersuit. You can file these different types of brief with the court, right, and side with one party or the other. And the courts will look at that when it's like you're indirectly joining the lawsuit, right? You have something to gain or lose from it, but you're not a direct party, right? And so the judges will take input from those parties and listen to any arguments they bring to the table, and it could or could not factor into what their final decision is.
This is what their counter thing is called. Opposition to motion for leave to file bill of complaint and motion for preliminary injunction, temporary restraining order, or stay. So they're trying to stop the other action. A stay is like, no,
right.
Stay.
And it's 18 states filed what's called amicus briefs, right, where they're trying to become a party to the plaintiffs that filed the lawsuit. They're trying to join in, right, without being the plaintiffs themselves.
And I don't know if this is a separate action, this stay, but it's basically, telling the other ones, get your nose out of our business. We get to run our own elections. And you don't get to tell us stuff.
And that's the thing, right? What Texas is asking for is way beyond any relief that a court is going to give them. Texas is trying to invalidate the votes of the voters in 4 states. You're talking about millions and millions of people. And did you see what I sent you that answered your question earlier today about how are they able to file with the Supreme Court directly?
I did see it, but I didn't get to read it, so how about you give us that?
Okay. So the reason Texas was able to file that lawsuit is normally when you're suing someone, there's laws when a lawsuit should be in federal court or where it should be in state court, right? And when it goes to federal court, there's a very small amount of qualifications that would allow a state, for instance, instead of in its federal district court in its region, it files directly with the state, with the Supreme Court, and that's when one state is suing another. That's one of the few reasons that the Supreme Court will take a case directly, right, without it working its normal way through the federal court process. And in this case, Texas is suing Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Georgia, and I think, is it Arizona? It was the 4 swing states, right? And
Wisconsin, Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania, Georgia.
Arizona.
Is it Arizona?
Michigan?
I think it's those. It's the
Okay,
4
look at it.
swing
Yeah.
states.
Yeah.
It's Georgia, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. That's the 4.
Okay.
Okay. So Texas is suing those 4 states. And Texas's claim is that the election results in those 4 states should be invalidated, basically saying that that fraud needed to be looked at in those 4 states, that there is allegedly evidence for fraud in those 4 states, and it needs to be looked at. And, Texas's claim that they're being hurt, that their votes are being invalidated, their electoral votes are being invalidated because of the fraud that existed in these 4 states. But in order to claim that, you have to prove it, right? So you have to have 2 things when you go to court. One, you have to have standing. You have to have a right to sue, which Texas really doesn't, even though they're saying that. That's not true. And 2, you have to have evidence. And there's no evidence. Texas doesn't have any evidence of the fraud that they're alleging that went on in these 4 states. They're just buying into all the misinformation or disinformation that Trump is perpetuating on the populace or that's out there on social media, right? And then Trump tried to join the lawsuit today by claiming all the things that he's saying on Twitter, right? He literally took his claims on Twitter and put them into and had some lawyer put him into a legal brief and just file him with the court. And this plays back to the arrogance, I believe, of the political elite. I think of politicians. They get to an elevated office, right, and they literally get drunk on power, right? And they're used to no one telling them no, right? When you're the Attorney General in the state of Texas, and let me just say, the Attorney General, who's the one that filed this lawsuit, is under indictment for corruption. So, and he's the Attorney General in Texas. So, that's my question. Okay, what did Trump promise you to file this lawsuit? Because, homie, you're looking at a lot of years in prison for the things you've done. And, I mean, his own attorneys in the Attorney General's office turned him in for his corruption.
This whole system is not working about, somebody's leaving, they just get to hand out pardons like Christmas cards or something. Here, Merry Christmas, I'm going to pardon. He said, I'll pardon everybody I ever talked to that supported him. It's like, wait, that's not the spirit of the pardon ability. That was not what was originally intended. And, you're abusing your power,
But everything about our system was built on the honor system and respect, right? Respect for the intent of the Founding Fathers, respect for the Constitution, respect for norms and ethics. And you have a president that has no respect for anybody, has no ethics, has committed crimes and corruption his entire life, and has never been stopped. And I'm going to say this, and this is probably a horrible thing to say, but when you have money and you are of a certain color and have money, the court system treats you differently. The legal system treats you differently than everybody else. And that's the truth of the matter, whether we like it or not. You have a rich person that committed murder, and you have a poor person that committed murder, and I guarantee you they will not get the same sentence. They will not be treated the same by the legal process, right? And that poor person
and if they get a really nice kind of, almost like a hotel room where the other people get shared quarters and bunk beds. It's really quality. It's just across the board.
So in the lawsuit that's before the Supreme Court, because they were allowed, because they fit that small definition of being able to file directly with the Supreme Court, that's why it made it on the docket. Now, just because the Supreme Court has it on the docket, they don't have to accept the case. They can kick it back down to the federal district court, right? Or
right.
I suspect they're going to hear the case. But let me tell you something. You go before 6 Supreme Court justices, you better have your ducks all in a row. You better have your
I don't think they'll even hear it because it's so ludicrous. You know, I think that I was looking at the counter thing, and it says, you know, it's too late to reverse or enjoin the results of the election, so they're past a time limit, you know, when you can file these things. This untimely action is moot. Everything's been certified, and you can't disenfranchise, you know, millions and millions of people. Plus, if they would have turned out all those 4 states, what about the other election results? You know, the different people that became governors and representatives and senators. They kept their local people.
You're speaking to all the reasons why they would strike it down, even if they heard it, right? But
I'm saying they won't even bother to hear it because
let me tell you why
there's
they
not enough foundation. Okay,
what
why
the
do you
Supreme
think
Court has a history of doing is taking on issues that are prevalent in today's society that they feel are important, right? It's why they heard Roe versus Wade, right? Think about what was going on in our country back then, right? Why did they hear Roe versus Wade? Because women were dying from getting abortions in dirty backroom offices, right? That's why they heard Roe versus Wade. You know, people that are pro-life, a lot of them aren't even old enough to understand what was happening in this country in the 50s and 60s where abortion was concerned. You had hundreds, if not thousands, of young girls, you know, going to these what do you want to call doctors? A lot of them weren't even doctors, right? They were just desperate to get an abortion and would go to someone in some dank room, and they would end up in hospitals or they would die because of such unsanitary conditions or poor procedures. And we forget about that, about how we got to Roe versus Wade. It's like death penalty cases and things like that. So when it's a topic that's important to society and as divided as our populace is right now, they might take it to put a lid on this. You know, you and I talked earlier today about we could literally be on the verge of a civil war, right? The Supreme Court may take this to put an end to the nonsense, right? And to tell all these attorney generals who have obviously violated their oaths of office, violated, you know, their oath to defend the Constitution, and playing political partisanship with something as important as a presidential election, you know, they might hear it to just kill this dead in the water so it can't go any further, you know, and once the Supreme Court rules, it's law.
Let me tell you why they won't hear it. Okay, so you know you said that they have to have a viable case. Texas does not present a viable case in controversy. Texas lacks standing to bring this action. This untimely action is moot. Let's see, and Texas fails to state a constitutional violation. Texas does not assert a meritorious elector's clause claim. So there's like all these different parts where they don't even have. Texas has no basis for any equal protection or due process claims against Pennsylvania. So I don't think they'll really like take their valuable time to do much more than maybe look at it and say and throw it out because there's not enough for it to go to the next level.
Yeah,
and I know they had to file up directly with the Supreme Court because it because it's involving many states, but there's no merit to even like look at it because it's a waste of their time, and they'll just throw it out. That's what I predict.
No, that's what we hope, right? But like I said, when they feel like it's important enough to the society in general, they just might. That would be the opening door that would cause them to prevent any further damage to society and to the trust in our elections. right? But, what Texas is claiming is, it wasn't so much Texas was claiming fraud. Texas was claiming that these 4 states ran their elections and changed their rules that opened the door to fraud, right? But that's not true,
right?
Because every state is allowed to run their election the way they want. And every one of these states ran their elections based on the existing laws within that state. And granted, they opened up mail-in voting. I think, was it Wisconsin that opened up, Michigan. It opened up mail-in voting to all people who had, all qualified voters, right? If you had registered to vote, any registered voter could get a mail-in ballot. You could even go online and download the ballot, right? And you could download it for someone else and send it to them. So that was their law because of COVID, right? Several of these states changed their rules just simply to protect the electorate because of COVID. And so they're claiming they're not allowed to do that. But just because you think it's against the law doesn't mean it is. And so many of these people that jumped on this bandwagon aren't familiar with what the election laws in each state. And each state's election laws are different. We don't have a national election. We have state elections that come together to elect the president, but there is no national election. So there is not one way to run an election.
Right. And this says that, what did I say here? Let's see. Before this court can be moved to exercise its extraordinary power over the Constitution to control the conduct of any one state at the suit of another, the complaining state must demonstrate that it has suffered a threatened invasion of rights that is of a serious magnitude. So, they're separate. So they have not suffered any. Anyway, they just from reading this,
they're claiming
it looks like they don't have a leg to stand on. Yeah, but
no, they don't have a leg to stand on. They're basically saying their votes didn't count because of what these 4 states did, but that's not true. Your votes counted. You got to submit your electoral votes, but guess what? Your guy didn't get elected. It doesn't mean your votes didn't count.
And that's the whole crux of the matter is they're sore losers. They're losers, and they're sore losers. They do.
And remember how they acted when Trump won? They talked about the Democrats so badly. You guys just have to suck it up. Too bad. Well, guess what, guys?
Yeah.
Your guy didn't win. You just have to suck it up and accept it. You don't get to militarily take over this country because you don't like who got elected.
Right. If this were to happen, we have no more country. It's over. The Democratic experiment has failed.
Let's not get it twisted. Trump doesn't want to be president because if he wanted to be president, he wouldn't be golfing every day since the election happened, right? Trump is doing
He's not
two
even
things.
doing his job. He's trying to just stay out of jail. That's all it is. Just trying to avoid lawsuits.
He's grifting his base. He's grifting his base. He's
what does that mean? What does grifting the base mean?
He's grifting his base. He's telling his base, send me money so I have money to fight this fraudulent election, right? And then in the fine print of that, if your donation is under 5.2, his political action committee, which means that money can go into his pocket and he can spend it any way he wants. Only his rich donors, if your donation is over $5,000, then 25% goes to the legal fight, and the other 75% goes into his pocket. But, he thinks his base is dumb, and they're not going to read the fine print, which most of them don't. And guess what? His wealthy donors, they're not donating money to this because they know he's pocketing the money. His campaign ran out of money because once the wealthy donors realized that so much of that money was being funneled to him and his family and their properties, and to Brad Pascal, they stopped donating to the Trump campaign. They started donating to political action committees that were running ads because they didn't want to line its pockets. So now Trump is getting all of his money from the little guy. Probably 95% of the donations that are coming in are small donations that they're getting from their supporters. So they want their supporters to believe there's a legitimate fight. So they'll just keep giving him money. So I got news for all of you that support him and have sent him money. You're a bunch of suckers, and that's exactly what he thinks about you. He thinks you're disgusting, and he thinks you're suckers, and those words have come out of his mouth. And he was glad for COVID, so he didn't have to shake y'all's hand anymore. He called you disgusting people is what he called you.
Well, see, this is in his new job. He gets to make millions. He makes millions of dollars. And everybody paying him money to do nothing. So he's really smart in that way. He's figured out a way to never have to work. You're paying him to golf. You're paying him to live in a retreat. It's like, oh my God, you know. I mean, I guess it's good work if you can get it, because people do it. But you know, I couldn't do that type of thing. Just live off it. Everybody talk about being a wealth, or what do you call it? Yeah, welfare state. It's like he's got the welfare. He's got people paying his thing, and his daughter, or whoever it was, bought a $23 million. It didn't even have a house on it. $30 million, whatever it was, and it's like, and then it's like it didn't even have a house on it. I mean, was that a good deal or what? I don't know. I guess they're going to build a bunch of places on it or something.
Well, they're trying to position themselves in a state that they hope will look out for them legally, right? They moved from New York to Florida. You know, they've propped DeSantis up in the hopes that if the authorities from New York decide to serve warrants on them and have them arrested, they can't go to Florida and do it. They have to work with the Florida legal authorities and let the Florida authorities do it, and then have them extradited from Florida to New York. So that was the whole reason for the move. Yeah, that was the whole reason for the move, right? But they may not extradite him, but I guarantee you if Trump tries to travel anywhere, he'll get arrested. So what is he going to do? Live at Mar-a-Lago the rest of his life? And DeSantis isn't going to be the governor forever.
I think he's going to go to the underground base on Mars. That's what they've been talking about. He's got the long-term plan. He made the deal with the ETs.
The ETs, is that what he did, right? Are the Dracos? Maybe the Dracos will come and get him?
No, the Italians came out with I don't have it on this list here. The Italians, somebody in Italy came out, somebody high-ranking, and he says, you know, I don't have anything to lose. I'm going to come out with this. And he said that Trump knows about the ETs, and the United States and Italy, because Italy had huge contact with extraterrestrials back in the 70s. There are a bunch of stories that are coming out about their ET contact. So anyway, there's an underground base in Mars, and Trump knows about it. So, I mean, this is how he thinks, you know. Who was it? Musk? Was that Musk that had the ship that blew up yesterday? And they were just laughing. They weren't really concerned. They were, that happens. It was just, okay. So there's something going on there. I mean, it was the reaction to that blowing up was really abnormal. They were almost cheering. They were going, oh, yay. It blew up. You know, like, wait, how many millions or billions was that just blew up, and you're not going, oh my God, that's horrible. No, they're just like, yay, great fireworks, you know. So there's something weird going on there, but there's some truth. There's only some truth in this stuff, right? You know. So there he is down in Mar-a-Lago. They're buying this. Whatever it was, I guess the property can be protected, so they can't get indicted. But then there's the girl from the woman, I shouldn't say the girl. the Attorney General of New York, she's got all this stuff lined up. Her name is Letitia James. She's so happy. She's got a big smile on her face. Trump cannot avoid justice in the great state of New York. Now, Melania, I was reading the Melania article, and she apparently, where is this? I'm finding it. She said, you're not running in 2024. You expect me to be with you. The source close Melania on potential Trump 2024 run. That might not go over well, is what the article says. That might not go over well. But apparently she's packing. Let's see. She started once he. Okay. A handful of days after the final state tally, the First Lady asked an emissary was discreetly finding out what was available to her in terms of a budget and staff allocations of post-White House life. She was determining what
I couldn't believe she had the nerve to do that. Like,
she was saying, what goes to New
There's no money available for her.
No, they have a moving fund. She's not going to spend her money. Yeah. So anyway, she was determining what's going to go to New York and what goes to Mar-a-Lago. So she thinks that she's going to be able to go back to New York. Maybe it's her going back to New York. She likes New York, I think. And she's not getting arrested. Although, I don't know. And it says she just wants to go home. And, that's how the lady feels about, First Lady feels about her husband's 2024 bid. That might not go over well. So, and then there was a whole episode of The Good Wife. I think it was supposed to be like 2017 or something, or 2016. And it was based on a story that Melania went to a law office and wanted to get a divorce. And they said to her, well, just renegotiate, your prenup, because she had this horrendous prenup. And she just said, I want out, I want divorce. She didn't want to go through 4 years with Trump in the White House. She was shocked that he won. That was the story, the rumor. Who knows what's true, but anyway, so she apparently she's signed.
No, in real life,
December.
In real life, she stayed in New York to renegotiate her prenup. That is true.
Okay, so that's
why she wouldn't come to Washington. She had a very poor prenup, and she wanted to renegotiate it to ensure that her son would not be cut out of any inheritance, which she's positive that the other Trump siblings will do, especially Ivanka, and push him aside and make sure he doesn't get any money. And so she stayed in New York until Trump agreed to renegotiate that prenup. So she has a renegotiated prenup that assures more money for her son. It wasn't so much about her, it was about her son.
Yeah,
she knows how hateful Trump's children are.
But also, she negotiated in this, and I don't word it's not in this article, but it was on another one. She negotiated $50 million for herself.
Good for her.
But she said that's not going to go far enough because the lifestyle that she's become accustomed to will eat up that $50 million, very easily. I don't know how much money Trump has. If he's broke and he owes all this money, I don't know what's going to go on. I think she might want to get out while the getting's good because if he starts getting arrested and sued, there won't be any money to give her money after she gets divorced.
Well, my guess is New York is going to come after them with the RICO statute, right? And don't forget.
Okay, what's that? What's the RICO statute?
Okay, RICO is for organizations that are involved in a conspiracy. That's how they got the mafia, right?
Right.
So that they're looking at the Trump family as an organization, right? You had the Trump organization or the Trump company. All the kids worked for it, right? So now you've got a collective group of people and or companies that are working in sync with each other committing crimes. The Trumps they pled guilty to operating, that nonprofit, that charitable organization fraudulently. They're not allowed to sit on any charitable organization board for 10 years because of what they did. It was just a slush fund.
I had some friends that were running a tantra temple, and they were, doing basically what was legally was called prostitution. So they went in and got everybody, including the person who designed the website, because they called it criminal enterprise. So I'm thinking Melania is benefiting from the money that's been generated by the criminal enterprise. So they would arrest her just like everybody else. So
she better pray her name isn't on any legal documents, because if it is, she's going to get rolled up with the rest of them. But don't forget, there's those 65 unsealed indictments sitting in the Southern District of New York federal office, prosecutor's office, that they're sitting on waiting for the Trumps to leave office. Nobody knows what's in those indictments. Right? And they're waiting for them to leave office.
Said, I can't tell you what's in those indictments. I'm not going to give away my hand.
Yep, absolutely.
So we can only speculate what's in those documents. But there's all this stuff they've been doing all along that's not cool. It's illegal. So their input.
Well,
anyway, but they can't extradite him. So how are they going to do this? If they can't extradite him, how are they going to do this?
Oh, yes, they can. If push comes to shove, there's legal avenues to get someone. Even if they don't agree to be extradited, you can have a hearing that forces them to be extradited. They get the choice to do it voluntarily or involuntarily. The government does, you have to remember, the governor of Florida doesn't get to shut down the Florida judicial system, okay? And we talked about this earlier. You have separate elements of the government, so one doesn't control the other. DeSantis might be able to keep, the police officers in Florida from arresting Trump, but he can't tell the judges what to do.
Right. So how do they get him? Well, they can't get Snowden from Russia. I mean, there's something about it. Like, you can make all the statements, you can't actually get those. And so the other one's in England. What was his name? The hackers. What was the name?
What are you talking about?
There's Snowden that's in Russia, and there's one that's in England. He was at
Assange.
Julian Assange, yeah. So that's what I'm looking at. So these people don't get extradited. They, and Julian Assange apparently has found a relationship and made a couple of babies, and I guess now Snowden got married. So, they're moving on with their lives. So part of that, maybe if it's really to the point where they could get extradited, I think they'll just go to Russia.
Well, that's what I think. I think they're going to be on the first plane to Moscow. But this goes back to their arrogance of committing crimes all their lives and never being held accountable, right? This isn't the first time they've committed. They've just never been held accountable. They're rich. They have money. They've been doing this for years. It's nothing new. That's why, they're indignant that they're being held accountable, because they've gotten away with this for so many years. And when things are left unchecked, you create monsters. Well, guess what? We got monsters running the White House.
We certainly do. Wow. Well, this will be interesting to see how it pans out, because, what did they do? We had looked at World War II. What did they end up doing? They had all those trials for years. They found a lot of them and tried to. So it's not like it's just Trump. They go after everybody because they're all complicit. They aided and abetted this process of Yeah, we've got 300,000 dead pretty soon, right? And there'll be another 300, 400,000 before they, maybe more. Maybe it'll be 1 million by the time they get the remedies out there.
They're projecting 1 million by the first quarter of next year.
Right. So 1 million people will be dead, and this is all because it was monetized and politicized to, keep Trump in office. This is a huge crime against humanity, and history will not be kind to this administration. And they're going to start, we're held in this continual state of dysfunction and shock.
You can turn on the light. I'm sorry. Sorry, I was talking to someone who just walked in the room.
That's okay. And so we're in this kind of like post-traumatic stress disorder right now.
The entire company has PTSD.
Yeah, and then we're gonna settle down from that. We're gonna start getting mad because I lost my mom, dad, brother, sister, child, and it's like, who's to blame? Well, we need to be able to do those lawsuits against. Trump needs to be sued for the deaths of 1 million people. And then all those people in Congress that support, all those senators and all those governors that supported these policies that spread a disease that wipes out and that's just here in the United States. How many people have died around the country, around the world, because of this Trumpism attitude? This is just like Hitlerism. It's the same thing. And we've got to get past this in some way because we're just we're barbaric. We're never going to become conscious civilized civilization. We'll be just barbaric forever.
Well, did you see the nurses? Some of the nurses in the ICUs, they're so disturbed at the fact that they've got patients they're taking care of that have COVID that refuse to believe that's what's killing them.
Oh,
they're
I
like,
saw
this
that one.
Virus is, they're claiming this virus is a hoax. What's killing me? Like, you're lying to me. Like, they so believe all the lies and disinformation that they're not believing that they have COVID and they're about to die from it. And how many people thought masks were a joke and have now died from it? And actually put videos out there right before they died to get people to pay attention to this.
Yeah, they say we screwed up. Yeah, that one person was saying, no, it can't be COVID. I have cancer. I'm dying of cancer. Yeah, I'm dying, but I'm dying of cancer. It's not COVID. It's not COVID. No, and that is a phenomenon that's like shocking. We need to look at it. How could this huge part of our society be so brainwashed that they can't accept what's going on, even as they're. There's one doctor. He said, "I'm gonna make a movie of what this is going to be the last thing you see."
Right.
He showed his face, and he looks like he's in a spacesuit, right? And all you can see is little hint of eyes, and he's coming, and he goes, and here's the what do they call that when they put the tube down your throat? Here you go. Open wide. You're passing out. And that's it. They never come back. And he had done like 100 people in a few days, and he just said, "I'm so sick of this." So he made this video. He said, "This is what you're gonna see. I know I'm cute, but I'm not that cute. You don't want me to be the last thing you see." It was kind of funny, but it was like, no, you really need to take this seriously. It just pisses me off how people are just so disrespectful that they think that they have the right to kill people. And no, it isn't working for you to go around with no mask because there's something going on.
The hypocrisy of that is those are the same people that are pro-life, right? That think they have the right to tell you what to do with your body.
Yeah, well, they're not pro-life because they only care about, they're just pro-controlling women. They want to control women and women's bodies and keep them second-class citizens and turn them into handmaid's tale. Because if they really wanted to pro-life, we have technologies that very easily develop. We do all kinds. We take out bodies. We take out babies and we do open heart surgery, right? And we keep them alive and then we put it back in. So we have artificial movement. We can put that baby into another body. So if you really are pro-life, you could line up. This is going to sound horrible. But, they really don't want all the little brown and black babies, right? You can't see, like, the Southern Belle going to line up. And I'm so pro-life, I'm going to take this little aborted fetuses, no matter what color it is. I've seen women do that, and they don't care what color, they're getting a donor egg or something. But we have people that are bearing donor eggs that are 20, 30, 40 years old. So this program goes back. People have been donating their eggs, and these are zygotes. These are fertilized eggs, right? So they got a mother and father, and these people that can't have children, because both parents are sterile, they're going to the little fetus bank, and they're saying, I don't care whatever one you want, I still want a child, and they'll take them. It's not like when you go to the sperm bank, you go to the book and, this guy has a PhD, I'll take his sperm. No, this is like, I don't care, I just want a child. Give me a child. Now, there's a lot of people that are like that, but most people are like, no, I want with blue eyes and blonde hair and, IQ over 150, and so they're real picky. They're not really pro-life and go for the little baby that got. What about the one that's deformed, right? You're so pro-life, and are you going to take the Down syndrome babies? I'll line up for the little Down baby. No, they won't. They're a bunch of hypocrites. So they're just wanting to control women's choice, and that's how you dominate a culture, by taking 50% of them, or 51%, women I think are 51%, and being able to control them to the point that they can't even speak for themselves about what they're going to do with their bodies. These women aren't running out and using it for birth control. I mean, that's horrendously. Why don't we have birth control? Go into school and get it in the clinic. It's not like you're going to start being promiscuous just because birth control is available. No, if you're promiscuous, that's something else going on. You're probably rebelling against your parents, But those decisions, we need to educate people so they don't get pregnant and protect them so they don't get diseases, and then we won't even be at the position of having to worry about abortions. But we don't have enough education around it because of this ultra-conservatism around production.
They've removed the education from the schools. They've removed the requirements for insurance companies to pay for birth control. They have cut off the funding to Planned Parenthood, which was one of the biggest distributors of birth control, especially in the lower economic neighborhoods where women couldn't afford to go to a doctor. You could go to Planned Parenthood and get it was based on your ability to pay. They cut off all that funding. So they've done everything they can to force women to have babies if they do get pregnant, and their answer is, well, they should be abstinent. They shouldn't have sex. Good luck with that one. Tell humans they can't have sex, right? And what are they going to go do?
And if they get pregnant because they get raped, then it was God's will. I mean, that is so sick. The abortion issue is really it's a religious issue. Yes. They've removed the separation of church and state, and it's become a religious issue. So that was the whole thing about the latest SCOTUS. She was extremely religious. So they haven't heard anything on the abortion stuff yet. So that's where it's going to come out. But right now they're playing with all this other stuff. There's so many hours in the day, so they've got all these other suits that are coming up, like, let's get rid of all your insurance. So people won't have any insurance. I mean, it may be sucky insurance, but at least it's some insurance. And Trump never had any kind of replacement system in mind. The senators spent all their time just playing politics, and none of them ever worked on a better system. Would have been great.
No,
they
lied again. They lied to the electorate. They lied to their base. You don't have a better system. You don't have anything. You just lied. They gave that CNN reporter a giant book of paperwork. There was no plan in that book. That was all for show. Republicans always lie and tell you they're going to do something, and then they never come up with anything. They just count on you're going to be dumb enough to just let them get away with it, and guess what? They get away with it.
Well, they came up with, we're going to cut taxes, but it was only for the rich. And now they're saying, I hear these people that have been Fox News, they're saying that the Democrats are going to tax all the poor. And it's like, I think the one was, you don't get any increased taxes unless you're making over $400,000 a year.
Right.
Yeah,
they're not going to. Absolutely. People who have that kind of money can afford to pay into the system.
Yeah, they can pay more tax.
But right now they write everything off where they pay almost no taxes, most of them, at that level. That's the problem.
Most of them pay no taxes.
Most of them pay no taxes. And the guy making $50,000 a year doesn't get away with that.
No. So that's
most corporations don't pay any taxes. So, that there should be a minimum tax requirement from every corporation in this country without any tax loopholes. Everyone should have to pay their fair share. And I don't want to hear, they create jobs. Guess what they did during this pandemic, right? They're all about their profits. They're all about their shareholders. And they're laying people off. The Republicans tried to get rid of Obamacare in the middle of this pandemic.
Right, and you would tell me what your poor brother's going to have to pay for his cancer care. That's a sin. I mean, it's like nobody should have to pay for that. We have enough money to finance wars. We need to finance, because they monetize diseases, and there's no incentive to find cures, because cancer's big business. Look at how much they're going to get from your brother.
Absolutely. And told him he's going to lose his stomach no matter what. Even if they get rid of the tumor, they still have to take his stomach out. Why? Why do you still have to take his stomach if you know you've gotten rid of the cancer and the tumor? And, he's upset about that. And I'm like, just because a doctor tells you something has to be done doesn't mean it does. They're in a business to make money off your disease. They are not in that business to cure you. Stop listening to them.
And I'm like,
I'm a perfect example. I had male doctors tell me for years, you need your uterus out. There's nothing wrong with my uterus. I didn't need my uterus out, right? I needed a hysterectomy.
Right.
I didn't need a hysterectomy. My first female doctor I went to, she said most female problems go away on their own with time. She goes, if a doctor tells you he wants to cut something out, go get a second opinion. 4 years ago, I had gallbladder problems. Oh, we need to take your gallbladder out. No, you didn't. There was a way to resolve this problem naturally without cutting it. Here I am 4 years later, just fine. So don't listen to these doctors if they're making money. Yeah.
They would take mine out, I think it was 2014 or something, right? And it's like, no. So I just went online and I went to the health food store. And now, I'm not a doctor and I'm not spouting a cure, but I found this stuff called Breakstone tea. And I went, okay, I'll try this. And then I went to, I said, I want to get another, what do you call it, sonogram, and they said, oh, we can't see them. Oh, there they are.
Yep,
it's
me
so
too.
tiny. It's just like the size of
me
a dot.
Too.
And mine was an inch long. And
me too.
How did you do that? Well, I researched it. Yeah.
Yep. I went back. I waited a year, and when they went back and looked in, there was like, there's nothing in your gallbladder. And I'm like, I could have told you that.
Yeah. So,
there's a way to cure everything we have without cutting body parts out, without paying hospitals and doctors hundreds of thousands of dollars. I have a friend. She was a co-host on RR with us. Do you remember Bridget? Is it Galdolf? I think Bridget had brain cancer when she was 32. Right? Bridget cured her brain cancer, and she said it wasn't easy. It was a 6-month brutal process. But she learned everything she could about it. And she was an herbalist at the time, so she already knew a lot. but she cured her brain cancer. She never went back to the doctor after that first diagnosis. After they actually told Bridget she didn't have long to live and there was nothing they could do for her. They could give her chemo and radiation and possibly extend her life a little bit, but for the most part, she was a goner. Bridget, 20 years down the road, no cancer in the brain. It's gone.
Right.
Bridget's fine.
So don't buy their death sentence, and don't just follow what the American Medical Association says, because they're in the business for profit. So
absolutely,
figure it out. Yeah. Well, we're still here because I'm like a little mini doctor. I'm not a doctor, but I just do all this research. I go into my doctor for I rarely go, but if I go into something, I say, by the way, I'm one of those internet doctors, You're not going to just have me say, yeah, okay, fine, give me the prescription. So don't mind me, I'm going to ask questions. And I do a damn good job, and I know people would do better. You can really arm yourself with information, and so don't roll over. So now I saw something where I made a kind of a joke at the beginning that we're gonna have the American monarchy if this is a hypothetical, which we already have decided that Trump is not going to be able to overthrow the election. But I said, what are we going to have, like Trump, and then when he steps down his throne, he's going to welcome to the American monarchy. But I was just scrolling down, and I put all these things from the Daily Cause. I grab and cut and paste, and don't be mad at me, people, but I'm spreading the word, because I really recommend Daily Cause, KOS. It's a play on words, and it has all these wonderful articles for Democrats. If you're Republican, you're not going to like these. So, but it just was talking about what I was saying, that they want to. Ivanka wants to be next. I mean, the kids are going to be. Even if they were in 2024, the kids are going to come back and say, which one the none? Oh God, I think it might be cute, but yeah, I can't find it anyway. Okay, so we have other articles. Let's go back to our drawing board. So that was a good. Have we exhausted the topic of the lawsuit? So I could not find a date that's going to make the decision, but there's something going on, a certain date where everything gets kind of locked in. I thought yesterday was the date that they called a certain name. The 14th. What is happening on the 14th?
That is when Congress, I guess they validate all of the certifications that have been submitted by each state for the Electoral College, right? So they just validate the electoral votes. It's called Safe Harbor Day.
I thought that was yesterday. So there's another date. Yesterday was Safe Harbor Day. So now there's a date where they actually have the Electoral College voting.
That's the 14th.
What day is that?
That's the 14th.
Okay, I'll look at it.
That's why that was the reason for the rush to the Supreme Court. They're hoping the Supreme Court will hear this before the 14th.
All right, so we're going to just have to pay attention. Okay, the Electoral College. I'm not getting the answer. Okay. When does the Electoral College vote? I'm getting it on the internet. Of course, it's on the internet. It must be true.
You're like my brother. You sit there and have a conversation with him, and he validates everything you say. He Googles everything you say while you're talking to him.
I'm going to fact check that. Yeah. It's not popping. See, it's gone over to Yahoo. I think Google's better, but somehow my computer shoots me over to Yahoo. So I'm not getting. I asked, when does the Electoral College vote? And it says it's going into what is the election. They got to answer my question. We need a better computer. Okay, so I'm not. Have you
tried DuckDuckGo?
No.
Are you familiar with? Okay, so I'm going to say this to people. I hate using Google for search. I do not trust Google. They cannot be trusted at all with anything you do, with any information. And I love a search engine called DuckDuckGo. They don't track your data. They don't track anything you do. They don't try to push ads at you. They keep everything confidential. It's DuckDuckGo.com. So if you get frustrated with Google, try DuckDuckGo.com. And you get a cleaner search without all the garbage in it. Google searches now are bombarded with so many ads, it's hard to sift through all the garbage to get to the information you want.
Yeah. Well, that just proved it. I can't get to the information, so I'm going to let it go. We're just going to trust what you... Let me try one more time. Electoral College. Anyway, the Electoral College vote is coming up, and so they were Trump was trying to was calling up and asking them to replace the ones that were, appointed by the states. Just let us put our people in there. I mean, what the hell is wrong with this guy? There's no class.
He is the epitome of poor white trash with money. He still acts like they're living in the trailer park.
Yeah.
You know what? They are the royalty of PWT. That's what they're the royalty of.
What's PWT?
Poor white trash.
Oh, P.
And I'm a white girl. I'm a white girl calling out Trump. I'm a white girl calling out Trump. Yeah, you act like poor white trash.
Yes. Okay, so Tuesday was a safe harbor day. I got that up. Okay. December 14th is something. The safe harbor deadline is 6 days before the Electoral College meets. It's not a hard legal deadline. Okay, so on the 14th, which is, that makes sense, they gather and cast their votes in each state and the District of Columbia on the 14th. So that, by the time, we'll know by next week. So what happens once they make that Electoral College vote? Is it set in stone there? Is there anything else that Trump could do short of marching in the streets and shooting people? Would they do that?
Their lawsuit in the Supreme Court by Texas is their last shot at that. Once this is done, it's over.
I think that and then they're going to do a separate event on the 20th of January. Trump is going to do some kind of event.
Biden's inauguration. So disrespectful.
Yeah.
Nobody did that to you when you were being inaugurated. That's what I said. He has no class. He has no respect. He has no class.
And it starts with that, like Trump has no class. It's like all these people, they have no class. Like, what are you doing? Why are you supporting that stuff? That's what boggles my mind. So what? He's a bad, evil person. But I think there was an article I read where, we find that they are guilty. They're all guilty of enabling this person. It was an interesting article. Basically, I think it was saying that they're going to make that a criminal offense. There's a term for it. There's a term for it. Sedition. Oh, can't find it now. I spent the morning just finding all these articles. Oh, here. Seditious abuse of the judicial process. No, that's not what it was called. Anyway, it's like everybody who supports that they're all committing a crime. And I think that's how they went and got everybody after Hitler, right? Because it was like this criminal enterprise,
You have to remember, when you're a lawyer, you are what is considered an officer of the court. You are obligated to uphold the law and the rules of the court. You've now got lawyers that are blatantly lying in documents that they're filing in lawsuits in court. They're actually committing crimes doing this.
Right.
And, I hope someone goes after them and files complaints with the state bars and tries to get their license taken away, because they deserve to have their law licenses taken away. You are not, being a lawyer does not give you license to perpetuate lies, period, end of story.
Right. Here's one that I got. Hey to the neighbors, does he have a hit on all of you and your families, or what? Traitors. I think that's the one that said, Mitt Romney's speaking out to. He said, this is madness. He's going, I can't believe they're doing this shit. So he might be halfway decent person, but I don't know. I don't know enough about Mitt Romney. I guess he ran against, who did he run against?
Who?
Didn't Mitt Romney run for president? See, I lost track. I didn't pay attention for a while there. I was so disgusted.
Romney ran this year. He ran in the 2016 election against Trump.
Yeah. Okay. So he never made it up to being a president.
No, he never made it past the primaries. Yeah. No.
Okay. Yeah. I think the primaries were kind of fun. We had all those people.
Yeah, they were kind of hilarious to watch. What I find even funnier is all those people that called Trump disgusting, they're now kissing his butt.
I know.
and Cruz, of all people, said the most foul things about Trump, and now you're going to defend this for him in the Supreme Court. You have got your lips so far up his ass, you can't even see the light of day anymore.
I don't know how they sleep at night, Oh, here's one. Call to arms. Trump commands his cult followers to escalate dramatically. Oh, that's a new one. Yeah, it's today. Yeah. What's he want them to do? He's resorting to the methods of history's most loathsome wannabe tyrants. He's hoping that he can stir up outrage amongst his cult followers, convincing them that they are all victims of an irrational plot to usurp the power of the presidency that Trump believes is rightfully his. It's a bizarre scenario that requires his glassy-eyed disciples to accept that, despite his omnipotent superiority, he has been outsmarted by someone he disparaged as sleepy and mentally unfit. So, that's what I worry about. It's like, what is going on with these people? It's like some kind of mind control. Maybe there's chemtrails. Let's put this mind control element in the chemtrails, and if you're a certain race, color, creed, blood, I don't know. There must be something in common with all the Trump.
You know what? I think we had this conversation. I don't know if we had this conversation or not. I find a lot of people in church, right, especially the evangelicals, they're followers, not leaders, right? They want to be led around by the nose, right? And then they play this victimhood role in life. I'd leave it in God's hands. Why would you leave it in God's hands? Why would you not take control of your life and make sure you're not a victim to anything, right? You're abdicating responsibility for your own life by just putting it in God's hands. So, and I find those same people are following Trump. You want to believe all this stuff. You want to believe all his lies and everything he's saying because it fits your narrative of what you want to believe about the world. But it doesn't fit reality. You watch conservative television, it's like they're on another planet. They're reporting what's going on in the United States, and I'm like, are we in the same country? Like, I had to, start banning those newses because there was a time you weren't allowed to put lies on national television. So I don't know when this started being allowed legally. They should be losing their broadcasting licenses for this. But
I think that's why they're starting to put disclaimers. that this has been, they're starting because
Google
they were going to.
Finally, yesterday, removed 8,000 videos that were perpetuating election fraud that were complete lies. And I'm going to say this to anybody listening. Please do your research. Please stop listening to Breitbart, One American News, Fox News. They are not telling you the truth. Broaden your scope. You can listen to them, but listen to the others too. Don't just believe what's on Facebook, please, for God's sake. You know what I mean? Facebook is making money off all the hate and vile and fear that's out there. Get your facts straight. I had my brother sitting here arguing with me. Well, I heard there was 20,000 fraudulent votes. I'm like, no, there isn't. Go do your research. There was no 20,000 fraudulent votes. There was 50 votes here, 143 votes there, but nothing that was on the level of widespread fraud, right? And there's always these little random incidents in every election. So people, do your research. Get your facts straight. You got Google at your fingertips. You want the truth? Start Googling things, right? Stop listening to it because it's on Fox News. Stop listening to it because it's on Facebook, because you're not getting the truth.
I agree. Like, I have that argument with my brother. I said, you're listening to one source. But see, they get one program that the minute they go and flip something else, they go, oh, fake news. But that's not the problem. I know Trump started this years ago. He labeled everything fake news. Mainstream news is fake, right? So what is the problem is, why are these people following this narcissistic, sociopathic, psychopathic, because a million of us are going to be dead soon. Psychopath is one that follows through and kills people, so people are dying. And he's fine with that. He says, yeah, it's just part of the process. These people have to die, so we have herd immunity. It's like, but why are these other people sociopaths as well? Is this an extremely narcissistic society? And then we have to look at it on a core level of what's changed. And they say that is it nature or nurture? And apparently, this isn't like a genetic thing, that you get these sociopaths because of their environment. So what are we doing as a culture, raising our children that they're more and more narcissistic, sociopathic, and psychopathic? And so we need to look at our society and what's changed. Now, statistically, how many sociopaths we have at any one time? Let me Google that. What percentage of the population are narcissistic, are sociopathic? But this article I read said that these people that are following Trump are in that in the spectrum, and they have these things that are going on. Now, apparently, the children that have these tendencies when they're younger, if there's some intervention done, they can be a large percentage of them can be re-socialized and put on the right track. It seems it gets more set in stone when they reach 18, something like that, because it involves the development of the brain and of the personality. So I know that the UK had started a program of identifying these kids that were problematic, and that's one danger of being in COVID, is we're not going to be able to see these children that we might have been able to identify as problematic, or those that are being raised in a unsafe environment, that they're getting molested and abused and beaten. So now we're not going to have that unless we get back to school. But I don't know how good the schools are, or how well they're prepared to identify the environments that are something that will help raise a healthy child. So anyway, back to you.
Well, I think what you're watching is whites in this country becoming a minority, right? And this is the last gasp of white superiority and colonialism. That's what you're watching.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you hear all these Trump supporters screaming they're trying to erase our history. Guess what? Your history isn't shit to be proud of, right? White history, what we did to the Native Americans in this country, we stole the land from them and committed genocide. That's nothing to be proud of. We enslaved people from another country, and our business success was built on their backs. That is nothing to be proud of, you know? So stop believing that whitewash history you were taught in school, and again, get your facts straight, right?
Mm-hmm.
Brown and red-skinned people were here first. This was their land, and it's time we start giving some of it back to them. Stop cheating them out of the things that they're due.
Well, you know, there's a whole alternative history, and I think it was, I can see his face, but I can't think of his name. He's a wonderful black actor. But he said, my ancestors were not from Africa, that there was a black race in the Americas. And that's why you have the Olmecs, they have the big statues in South America.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
they have black features, right?
Yes.
And so he said, and then he had a wonderful YouTube about it. There weren't enough ships to account for the population of black people. And then he showed pictures of Native Americans in the, we've had photography all through the 1800s. I think it started in the late 1780s or 90s was the first photograph was taken. I was watching some YouTube on that. I didn't know it went back that far. So anyway, they have some pictures of the early Native Americans, and a lot of them had kind of the Negroid features, the black features. And so, we've been mixing as a culture. There's a lot of white people that say, I have 1 or 2%, this and that. And it seems like there's a pride in people when they say, oh, I'm part Cherokee, I'm part this and part that. People seem to be proud to be included in the indigenous peoples, at least somewhere in the bloodline. So when I did my ancestry, I said, my family's been here since the Mayflower on the one side and the Virginia colonies on the other side. So we're about, 1600, maybe whatever, 1492. So yeah, somewhere starting in the late 1400s, 1500 and 1600s. The one batch of my ancestors came over, and then there was another one in the potato famine. But I think most of it goes back further on, especially on my mother's side. So I thought for sure, somebody was in bed with somebody, of color. I was so excited. I got my ancestry back, and I go, I'm the whitest person I've ever met. I'm just so white. I said, my ancestors were bigots. They didn't even have a one-night fling, one-night stand that created anything. It's like, oh, my God. So anyway, but it's interesting. And some people don't want to do that because they don't want the DNA out there. And it's like, have you ever been in the hospital? As soon as you're in the hospital, they're taking your blood, so they've got your DNA. If the government wanted your DNA, they would just go pick up the cup you were drinking after it went in the garbage, right? It's like they can get your DNA if they want your DNA. They don't have to be in the bottle.
In a lot of courts today, in a lot of state courts, if you get committed of any crime, you have to don't give your blood and give your DNA so it can be put in the national DNA database. Did you know that?
I did not know, but I'm not surprised.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not surprised at all.
Yep.
Yeah,
in the state of New York, if you
whistleblower.
get charged with a felony, you absolutely have to. California too. You have to give blood and have your DNA entered into the database.
Well, don't they take your blood?
California does it before you're convicted, but New York doesn't do it until after you're convicted.
Oh. So I'm looking at a wait. It said this part, and I clicked it. I can't read it. It says that the sociopath makes up approximately 3 to 5% of the general population. About 3 out of 100 males and 1 in 100 are sociopaths. Approximately 70% of sociopaths who come from fatherless homes. They come from fatherless homes, and 30% are born out of wedlock. So there must be, this is a nurture thing, lack of nurturing. So our narcissists and sociopaths increasing psychology today. So that might be part of the problem, is that our basic family structure has eroded. If the unwed mothers and fatherless homes is attributing to it, that might be why we see a rise in narcissistic, sociopathic personalities.
I don't think it's necessarily unwed mothers. I think it's necessarily women who have poor mothering skills. And those kind of women come from all economic classes, married, unmarried, it doesn't matter. I think there's a lot of people who don't know how to be good parents, and I think that's what's creating so many sociopaths.
Well, I know my mother wasn't a good mother. I mean, I
mine wasn't either.
She's dead, but
I was on the path to being a sociopath because of the lack of nurturing and love from my parents. Me and all my brothers were. I mean, we were awful children, but we recognize now why. We never understood why. We had a mother that didn't want us and a father that was never there.
Well, my mother had to felt like she had to keep up, because in the baby boomer thing, everybody was having babies, and so it was like social pressure to pop out babies. Now, I'll have to read this article. I have it queued up, but this article is saying it seems like there's a rise in this public health problem. Yeah. Anyway, I'll read it. I'll read it in depth later. But okay, let's get back to our list. We're going to run out of time.
Okay, so did you see what Jack Dorsey did, the CEO of Twitter? How he donated $15 million to 4 cities, to the mayors of 4 cities, to fund basic income?
Oh, no, I didn't see that. Was that an article you sent me?
Yeah,
I know, but
article I sent you.
Let me see. I'll go back.
Now, here's a man who puts his money where his mouth is. I got to love Jack Dorsey. I love him.
Now, who is Jack Dorsey?
He's the CEO of Twitter.
Oh, he's Twitter CEO. Okay.
Yeah, he's the CEO of Twitter.
But why is he Trump?
What? He's not. No. Don't get it twisted. He's not on Team Trump.
No, but he puts up with him. Okay.
You know, he tried to not put labels on Trump tweets while he was the president out of respect for the presidency. But even at some point, Twitter had to step in and stop the nonsense because of all the chaos it was causing, right? I mean, Trump now is spreading...
stochastic terrorism. It creates terrorism. It's part of why there's a rise in narcissistic personality disorders. Like, people get more... They get insensitive. They lack compassion, lack empathy. The little bully comes out. The brute comes out. And they name call. It becomes acceptable to just, make fun of people that are, have mental illness or something, or disabilities, or their different skin colors. Just here it is. Twitter billionaire. Oh, okay. So that is called stochastic terrorism. You can say, boy, it'd be really nice if, someone would take somebody out. Now, that doesn't mean he hired a hitman, but the way a person making a statement about they'd like to see so-and-so, taken out, removed, and whatever, they're creating situations for terrorism. And that's why you see that woman was surrounded, and these people were outside of her house, and so they're tracking down Yeah, they're
They
tracking
had
down where these
guns
people
standing
live.
out there in front of her kids doing that.
Yeah, she's just trying to watch the Grinch's Little Christmas and have a
Well, she
a
was just
Christmas
trying to do
holiday
her job.
evening.
They're mad at her for doing her job. She did her job honestly, and because you didn't get the results you wanted, you're
next time? It's
Oh,
these people
that's
that
awful.
are terrorizing the volunteers and the voters in the states, and if it doesn't go to the outcome they want, who's gonna volunteer to help facilitate our elections? I ain't doing that. I'm not gonna get terrorized. Oh, Biden will have the White House disinfected after Trump leaves. That's a good idea. I'll have to click on that one.
Yeah, I'd have that place fumigated after the Trumps left too.
I said that in a Twitter about a month ago, and I said, then you got to get a lot of smudging in there too. and then that took off. It was interesting. It took off. I said, well, I said it'd be great if Trump left now because Biden's going to need all that extra time to fumigate the White House and smudge it, and a bunch of people came back. So, and now here it is. Biden will have White House. See, I think that we affect the meme. You can create a meme, and here it is. Biden will have the White House disinfected after Trump leaves. I mean, maybe he left some kind of toxin somewhere, right? Who knows? The guy's a psychopath.
I wouldn't put anything past that man. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't set the White House on fire, so nobody can move into it after he leaves.
I know. He's the kind of person that would say, if I can't have it, you can't have it either. It's like the kid that would go in and take the ball and go home. You can't simply kick ball without me. I'm taking my ball and going home.
And then he'd pop it
so
nobody could play with it.
Yeah. Make sure it's got a hole in it. Okay, so
did you see the article I sent you about the school in Texas that set up a store for the students that they can buy food based on social credit?
Oh, I missed a couple of them. I'll have to get back and try and get that.
Was that Joel? Was his name Joel, the one that talked about social credits? Having social credits instead of money. Do you remember that?
Yeah, my mind isn't working really well. But
there is a school in Sanger, Texas, which is just north of Dallas. Now, 43% of the student body lives below the poverty line and are impoverished. So a bunch of kids got together, a teacher and a bunch of kids got together, and they set up basically a store inside the school. And the kids can earn credits by volunteering and doing different things and then use those credits to buy food and stuff in the store.
That's great. I mean,
isn't it?
I mean, they need that meal. They're hungry. Can you imagine going all day and not eating until dinner time? It's like, come on.
You now have almost somewhere between 10 and 20% of the population who cannot feed themselves because of this pandemic. Right?
Oh.
And wouldn't it be great if communities could come together and set up stores like this and allow people, to earn social credits, right? That you go volunteer, go help in a food bank, go work in a soup kitchen, do something, right? Or say you have an elderly neighbor, right? Do something for them because they can't get out of the house, and then you earn social credits that you could spend in these local community stores so that you don't starve. Because I guess what? If you count on the government trying to help you, you're going to starve. So we got to start taking care of our own.
Excuse me. I had an idea for my garden up here because I'm in the jungle and I have these giant fruit trees. And when they go off, you can't collect the fruit fast enough before it goes bad. It hits the ground. And there's a bunch of rats in the jungle, and they come down and have a feast. Although I don't want to deny the rats, but there's still we could get a great percentage of them. But it's just kind of nobody wants to get out and get dirty anymore.
Why don't
maybe
you guys
someday they'll invent
pick
those
it
robots.
and take it down to the food bank?
I'm not working that hard. That's a lot of work. I'm sorry. I'm not getting along.
Can I smack you now?
Sweaty and dirty too. You can smack
Okay,
me.
how
No,
about
I'm
this?
not.
Okay,
I'm not doing
how
it.
about this? How
you
about
come
this?
over here. You can do it.
Okay, if I were there, I would do it. You know that, but I'm not there. What about offering your tenants a discount on the rent if they'll harvest the fruit for you, so you can take it down to the food bank?
I need the money to pay that electric bill. I need the money to pay the bills, and I don't have the money. No, I told them if you want some fruit, go get it. Pick it up, but nobody does. Nobody really goes out and gathers the fruit. There must be 30, 40, 50 avocado trees all around this house. You know,
Are you serious?
The land next door is vacant. The trees have propagated themselves, and so this has been a farm up here for over 100 years, maybe 200 years. So there's wild yams, there's all kinds of fruit trees, and then we could easily plant more banana trees, and very easy. We plant something and in a month we've got food, right? It's lots of food. But nobody will work it. So now there's some people in Maui that they had a bunch of sugarcane fields, and they bought it back, and they're supposed to do these community gardens. I haven't really tracked it. I think that the idea is out there. But if everybody just would volunteer to work different community gardens, and you come up and bring your own paper bags, right? Bring your own bags. And, you can work the garden and come up once a week and pick up all your fruits and veggies and then take down, you pick one and create 2 or 3 bags to give to the food bank. That would be a program. And when you come over here for a visit, you can organize this. Get the food going. But,
hey, I'll do it. I'm all about service to others. So, yeah, if I were there, I would definitely harvest that stuff and take it to the local food bank.
We did it harvest, yeah. And they even have some trees that they put some, what do you do when you splice the different, so there's 3 or 4 types of avocados, and they come in different times of year, so they splice them when they're young, so you'll have one branch that comes out in the spring and one in the fall and one in the winter.
Right.
And, yeah, some of the trees have those splicings, and then it's really interesting to see only one part of the tree blooming, right? And you go, oh, okay.
Right.
So my one friend says, is the avo's going off? And I go, oh, yeah, that's some starters. And he said, I'll be up. Never comes. Nobody comes. It's like really weird.
I'm surprised there aren't organizations of people that haven't gotten together and volunteered to, go to properties where they have a lot of, stuff growing wild, and if the property owner is willing to let them collect it and take it to a food bank, that they wouldn't do it. There's stuff here on the mainland now. We had so many farmers literally plowing their crops under because there was no transportation to take it to market, or they lost their customers, right? They catered to the restaurant industry. And so some grassroots organizations have sprouted up that are run by volunteers and staffed by volunteers who will drive out, to these farms, pick up whatever they can, and then take it to a local food bank or soup kitchen, right? And provide them with the food for free. Everybody does it on a volunteer basis, right? The farmer gives up his food, someone else comes and picks it up, and someone else drives it and takes it to the food bank, and then they take care of it once you deliver it.
So here's a good thing that's happening. So we'll get that settled. You're going to organize the food distribution, and we'll set up a system which will go around the planet, and here's how I did it. Okay, so we're setting it up after COVID. Christmas star, not seen in 800 years, will light up on the longest night of the year. So this is coming on what day? December what? The longest night of the year is 21st, right?
Yes.
Okay, so so it only happens Well, it hasn't happened this. Oh, it would be the closest to Earth since 1623, and the closest observable since 1226. And it's won't occur again until March 15, 2080. So everybody, on the 21st, go outside and take a look. This might be with the Star of Bethlehem. Could have been a planetary conjunction between Venus and Jupiter about 2,000 years ago. This might be our Star of Bethlehem. Now, some people are saying that we're going to get. Remember how we had 12, 21, 12, and we have all this stuff happening according to the Mayan calendar?
Right.
Well, because this is happening 12, 21, 2020, that this is the real date that they were in. So we might have ET contact. I'll spread that rumor. Yes, ET is going to come down on 12, 21, 20 and set this all right. No, I won't let this happen. You can't destroy democracy. No more killing people. I don't know. I keep meditating on that. It's like, oh, please, let's have disclosure. I'd like to have something. Okay, so that I wanted to read, but, you know, I'm not a prophet. I'm not really predicting anything. I'm just putting out my wish list. E.T., come home. Okay, now Biden will have White House disinfected after Trump leaves. It's a video. I can't do that. The White House will be thoroughly disinfected following President Trump's exit in January and before the incoming Biden administration moves in to prevent the spread of coronavirus. So they're saying it's because of COVID.
At the top of this mountain, why isn't it me?
Because of coronavirus, but I don't know. I would look at all the other cooties. So whoever's cleaning the White House, I want you to please protect yourself when you go in and clean this before the next administration comes in, because it's going to be a very toxic environment. Protect yourself. Okay. Oh, okay. Anyway, let's go back to our list. On elephantsoundroom.com and on aquarianradio.com, we have all kinds of links that Debra and I spend all week sending to Janet, and Janet puts up, and sometimes I miss them. I do a search, and I go, Debra, DeFranco in my search, and all the ones you've sent come up, but I didn't get them all, apparently, so I'll go get them. But, so we covered the lawsuit, so hopefully we won't have a coup. Because having a coup, even though you might be a Republican, you think it's a good thing, is not a good thing. That basically destroys our democracy, and then we won't have a democratic society. I don't know. What do you think would happen if we had a coup? What would be our system from there on? Because nobody could ever trust an election. Then some bully could just come and overturn it. I don't know. I think it's the end of the United States as we know it if this coup succeeds. So I don't think it's good for Republicans or Democrats.
I don't think there's going to be a coup. I don't think there's going to be a coup. I think these lawsuits are going to work their way through the court, and I think you might have isolated incidents of violence, but I think once the prosecutors or the cities, wherever this happens, makes examples of people that participate in this kind of thing, I think it'll stop. I mean, it's just pure ignorance. Right? You can't have your way all the time. There's going to be people who are elected that you like and people who are elected that you don't like, and you have to deal with it. I mean, we had to deal with 4 years of Trump, and there was obviously 80 million people who did not support that man or his policies, which is why he was voted out of office. Now there's going to be a new group of people in office, and you know, whether we like them or not, we're going to let them serve their terms and serve their country. And in 4 more years, we'll get to change this again. And this speaks to why people think your vote isn't important. This election should teach everybody that your vote is important, right? Obama got elected because people recognized your vote was important. Okay, so if anybody thinks your vote doesn't matter, that's not true. Your vote matters. Every vote counts. And you should go out and vote when there are elections in your city or your state or your county and make an effort to exercise your right. You know, in Australia that everybody is legally required to vote. It's not optional.
How does that work? How do they enforce that?
I'm not sure how their system works or how they enforce that. I'm sure there must be some kind of punitive repercussions, right, if you don't go exercise your right to vote. But it ensures that everyone has a voice. You don't get to claim, I don't have a voice in this government. You got to vote. One person can make a difference, believe it or not. And if you think that's not possible, look at Martin Luther King.
Well, I think someday they'll have some kind of system where, you know, you scan your eyeball or you scanner and your fingerprints, and maybe some people don't have hands, so it'll be the eyeball, and maybe even your DNA can stick to a jar.
If we can bank online, we can vote online. Why do you need all that? You don't need all that to vote.
Well,
if we can bank online safely,
I could have 5 people. Well, okay, so it would have to be a unique identifier for each individual, because I could have a bank account that has, you know, my husband and, you know, my kids have access to it. So that you have to have a system of one vote, one person. Yeah. Okay, voting in Australia is like a party since 1924. Australian citizens over the age of 18 have been required to vote in federal elections, by-elections, and referendums. Only in '84 that both voting became compulsory for Indigenous Australians. So here's how it works. So I'll have to read that. Yeah, this is the thing that we can promote. So everybody would be automatically registered when you're 18. So then they must have some kind of social number or something, some unique identifier. Right.
Yeah.
So I guess if you could have your unique identifier, and once that vote was made with your unique identifier, then they can't vote again. So it's
right.
Computerized. Oh. But voting, which always takes place on a Saturday, is also made easy and efficient, and is often accompanied by a community barbecue that includes eating what locals called democracy sausages. Okay, they made it fun. All right, so that's worth reading. Okay, let's end with COVID. What's going on with the COVID vaccine? I heard that the fight for one, if you have a history of allergies, it's not recommended. So I would not be a good candidate for the current. But there's 4 or 5 or 6 of them being developed, right? At least, maybe 30 or 40.
There's 6 of them being developed, 2 that have received approval in several countries, but there's side effects to this vaccine, because this isn't like the vaccines that we're used to getting. This uses a different technology. So you actually get what are considered mild COVID symptoms compared to the disease, but if you talk to anybody that's taken the vaccine, they'll tell you the symptoms aren't really mild. Like, be ready to be in for a ride for a few days and not feel good. But, you know, I would be hesitant to take any type of vaccine that's based on a new technology that's only been tested for 6 months, and no one knows what the long-term side effects of this are. But now, the mRNA technology, which they use, is a technology that has been around for several decades, and it was actually developed by a female, believe it or not. I hope she gets credit for it one day. I don't know if she will. But anyways, you know, it's a crapshoot if you take the vaccine. There's a lot of people that aren't going to. And in order to achieve herd immunity, you have to have at least 90% of the population that's vaccinated. And you don't have 90% of the population on board to get the vaccination.
Right, and then there's people that have caught it, but then the antibodies don't last. So I think we're just in a whole different world, and we have to start thinking about it differently.
Yeah, they last anywhere from 2 to 6 months. They have found the antibodies last longer in women than men. They have found the fatality rate amongst men is the highest. They don't know why. They're still trying to figure it out. So, it's up to you. I personally going to take a wait-and-see approach. I don't mind staying at home and being isolated. I have lots of hobbies and businesses I'm trying to run, so I'm good. I'm not bored. I got lots to keep me busy. And for anybody that's going stir crazy, get a hobby. Please get a hobby. For God's sake, get a hobby.
Get a hobby where you can make money. That would be great.
Yeah, really, because, 50% of those jobs that were lost during COVID, I got news for you guys, they're not coming back. They're not coming back. Whole industries are going to shut down. So we have to think about, for ourselves on a personal level, what's next, right? What am I going to do next?
Yeah.
If the world ended today, how would I survive? And based on the answers to those questions is what you should do next.
I talked to somebody at the end of last year. Well, first of all, they pushed back. They found cases as early as September of 2019 of COVID-19.
Yes.
That apparently it's been circling around the world. And I knew that on the psychic level. That was one of my conversations I had. And I think it was in January. And somebody was talking to me and said, yeah, well, this is going to be known as pre-COVID and then COVID and then post-COVID. So we may not reach post-COVID for another 3 to 5 years. And then this is the end of the world as we know it, right? So the world we knew in 2019 is gone. We're not going to get back to it. No matter what happens, it's going to be different. And people that say, you're taking away my liberties, your behavior, like, having these group events where everybody is, I think that we should surrender to it, and they start making these really nice space outfits with your own kind of recycled air that you can filter. And I thought some fashion designer could come in and really, make it a stylish thing that you would wear. And then, have the hat and the front face thing. It's kind of like in the hospitals, but those look like, aliens. But you could have fun with them and make them really fun costumes and work them into style and fashion. So I'm putting that challenge out there. Make some nice COVID, and just in general. We're probably going to have these pandemics, and we've had viruses for a long time. If you look back to the Dark Ages, they wore, Google what they wore in the Dark Ages. They looked like a big bird, right? They had a big long snout. Very interesting costumes they wore during the Dark Ages. So these people in the what do you call that? The plague. They call it the plague. The people in the plague, they would have special training. And so when someone caught the plague, there would be a period between when they died and when they got sick. And so people were so terrified of the plague, they would just toss them in a room and they'd die because they wouldn't get food and water, right? They'd stick it outside. But there comes a point when they can't sometimes move and take care of themselves. So they had these special doctors that had these complete bodysuits, and nobody even knew what they looked like. They looked like a bird creature. And then they became in high demand, and they were professionals, and they loved their job. They would go in and help people as they were dying, and a certain percentage of them survived. So, yeah, you have somebody dying in next room. You can't just leave them there and let them starve, and they don't have any water or food. So they would go in and help them and clean them up, and when they would get through, and then they, most of them died, but every once in a while somebody survived. So they did it. There was a show called, I forget what it was called. It was really good. Right before COVID hit, it was about, it was called The Great. It's about Catherine the Great. Very entertaining. It was like a comedy. But the king caught the plague, right? And it was so prophetic. It's like, wow. And so I'm going to go revisit that. I'm going to make a note. We watch Catherine the Great. The Great, not Catherine the Great, called The Great. And I have to see how they got through. So that was What's I don't know what time period it was. 1700s? Yeah.
No, I think that was the 1500s. The plague
1500s?
went on. Yeah, 1500s.
Well, the plague lasted for 400 years.
Lasted
it started
for 400 I think it was from the
years.
1300s to the 1700s, I think is when it first started.
And it kept cycling around. No, it was even through the 1800s because in Victoria, which was another series on PBS, very good, highly recommend it. She lost her personal handmaid, right? She had the woman that dressed her. The royals have a dress.
Lady in waiting.
The lady in waiting who dressed her, who did her hair. She caught the plague, and Victoria went to her house when she was dying to say goodbye. So Victoria subjected herself to the plague. I don't know why she did that. I mean, she was the queen, but she loved this.
But you have to
so
remember,
much.
they didn't understand how things were transmitted back then. They didn't know why.
Well, they knew that it was highly contagious. It was dangerous for her to go. They had that awareness, and what they used to do was they would take and for some reason they would go with these smoke bombs. So when you went out in the street, they had a belief that the smoke somehow would kill it. Now, I don't have anybody's research but they had these smoke bombs, and these people. So the streets are all smoky, and there's these people that walk around with the smoke all night. And anyway, so this has been around. This is something new. We've had it, and we've lost. And then the Spanish flu, we lost. I forget the stats on that. I pulled it up one time. Millions of people died. So I don't think you want all these people dying. So wear your freaking mask, everybody. And I think if we would have started out really taking this seriously back in January and February, it wouldn't have
spread around the country like this. No, we wouldn't be where we are now.
And around the world. They wouldn't have spread around the world. Yeah. So shame on all of you. Shame, shame, shame. But I've done my part. I've been sitting up here for a long time. And, and don't wear the mask anymore that have the valve. We had some of those because that's all that was available when it first started. And Sasha came back and said, no, they won't let you in the store with those. So, and they give out free masks now at Whole Foods. You want to come in the store here. So things are getting better that way. But you got to take the mask. You got to put it on. And you got to take it seriously. And really be proud of yourself that you're helping, that you care about other people. All right. So I think it's about time to wrap up. Unless you have anything else to say. And we just have about 10 minutes left. We don't have to go 2 hours. We're in a natural flow. If I can't find where the thing is to end the show. Okay, there it is. I found the right. I have all these tabs. My whole top of my screen is all these tabs I opened to do this research. All right, well, that was fun. I hope everybody got it out of their system. Anything final that you want to address? I really appreciate you, Debra, DeFranco, for all the hard research that you do to educate yourself so we can talk somewhat intelligently about these subjects. I am by no means an expert in any of these, and I just do what I can. And my opinion is my opinion. And, yeah.
Try to get my facts straight, before I start talking about something.
Yeah, we have our facts and we have opinions, and I always say I can prove absolutely nothing. I mean, most of the quote-unquote proof are testimonials, right? You can get, if you look at religion, you can get 2 billion people to testify that Christianity is it, the way and the light and the truth and the one and only truth. But, then you got another 2 billion Muslims and another billion, what's the next one? I don't know how many Jews, and, all their religions. So you have 8 billion people, and they all believe something differently. So, one man's proof is another man's science fiction. So
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I'm going to call it a day, and
Okay.
I appreciate everyone. Thank you for tuning in, and much love and blessings and aloha, and we'll see you next Thursday for Elephants in Our Room. Well,
Aloha,
many elephants in rooms. Aloha. Bye-bye.